time for the next silly duck. The next bookshelf tour. We're going to try to do Christian historical fiction, and I think there are a few just historical fictions on there, like classics, Trollope and Austen, I think. Maybe some Gene Stratton Porter, but I'm not sure. I don't remember. But I've moved around. There are a couple of things that are still in my room that aren't on these shelves yet because I found stuff that were in the corner I couldn't get. So I haven't had my husband do that yet because he's tall, I'm short, and all of our rooms in our house have, except for the room we're going to, have bookshelves completely around, just one shelf all the way around the top of the room, over above the windows and stuff. This room has them above the windows and above the closet, but not all the walls. And that actually turned out good because we did this library thing. But before we went out there, I was thinking about Christian fiction and something that I've noticed that I've talked to authors about on my podcast and stuff. And I thought it'd be fun to kind of mention before we go out there, which is really funny. I'm out there. We're going in there. Whatever, Shatona. But, okay, Christian fiction. Here's the deal. When you're a Christian and you read the Bible and you study the Bible and you just infuse sections of the Bible into your life, when you read or write, you're going to see what you read through those lenses. Even if you're not just reading Christian fiction, you're still going to see that. But it may not be what the author saw when the author wrote it. They're coming from a different place of study, how long it's been since they've studied that passage, or maybe they haven't studied what you've studied, and so they're coming from this passage and you're coming from this passage, and there's this neat little convergence that happens. And so sometimes I remember it was Secret Life of Book Club, I think was the name of it. It was by Heather somebody, Norman Smith, maybe? I don't know. It's by Heather somebody. And it was so good. It was so good. But I got stuff out of that book that the author was like, that didn't even cross my mind. But I got it out of it because I was reading it through the lens of scripture that I was focused on and I was studying. And that's the neat thing that happens. And it's one of the reasons why as Christians, people who aren't Christians, this means nothing to. Okay, and I get that. But for Christians, we need to be in the Word. You've got someone who is maybe an atheist who's writing something, and it's just a fictional work, but you're seeing something through the lens of Scripture, through their personal lens, and you're getting a different nuance than if you didn't study the Word. But of course, we need, right? I mean, this is what Christianity is all about, to understand God's Word. I mean, why would we not? I don't understand. But all that to say, that's what I love about Christian fiction, is kind of seeing where the author's spiritual life was going, with what they were studying and what they were learning from it, but also through the lens of what I see. I pull things out of it that they never intended, and vice versa. They put things in there that I never get because I'm not there yet, or because I've moved beyond that and I'm so focused on something else that I am not seeing that right now. But maybe the next time I read it, it's another reason I love to reread. But maybe the next time I reread it, I will see something in there that I never saw before. And so, with all that, Christian fiction, it's really cool. Let's go check out my Christian fiction, mostly historical. I don't think I'll have time for the other bookshelf. Okay, so these are the Christian fiction shelves. This is mostly historical. See? And these are my Michael Phillips, Wild Grows the Heather in Devon, the Secrets of Heather's Lee Wayward Winds. These are, I think they take place in Scotland. It's been a long time since I've read them. I should reread them. Heather's Lee Homecoming and New Dawn over Devon. Then this is Legend of the Celtic Stone, Caledonia, definitely Scotland. And An Ancient Strife, one of my all-time favorite series, Secret of the Rose,
Secret. Yeah, Secret. The Secret of the Rose. 11th Hour. A Rose Remembered. Escape to Freedom. Dawn of Liberty, if you like. Pre-World War II through the breaking down of the Berlin Wall. A complete series, that's good. Depths of Destiny. I'm trying to remember, but I think it has to do, there's another one, I don't have it anymore. But I think it has to do with TV Preacher, but don't quote me on that. Rift in Time. Yeah, this is about the Garden of Eden, kind of a fantasy-ish, but it's like written with magical realism, maybe, I don't know. Not really. But then Hidden in Time, this is about the Ark and the curate of Glasgow. Let me see if I can get that up there. Yeah. And then Gray Fox, which is my favorite of the Corey Bell Hollisters. It's probably one of my favorite, gosh, I'm just swinging that around. My favorite Westerns of all time. And Garden at the Edge of Beyond, which I have already shared with you. Okay. Rebecca Duvall Scott, When Dignity Came Home. This is based on a true story, historical fiction, and I think it's the second book in the series. It's really strange because Sandy from Celebrate Lit has a very, very almost identical story from her family, and it's like, it's so close that you're like, is there any chance you guys are related? I mean, because it's almost identical. Kind of cool. And as far back as it is, you know. Then obviously Before We Were Yours by Lisa Wingate. I know Lisa Wingate used to be Christian fiction. I'm not sure if that one is, but I have it there because yes. I think that has to do with the Tennessee Children's Home and all the awfulness that went on there. Jerry B. Jenkins, The Nun Go With Me, one of my all-time favorite books. Really just, and then more Michael Phillips, Mercy and Eagle Flight. This is about a gal who is with a minister and they're going around doing like gospel meetings and revival meetings, and she thinks he is just this wonderful, healing, godly man, and then discovers that he's not, and that he is bilking people, and it ticks her off, and so she refuses to go with him anymore. And it's all about how this man, Eagle Flight, who is not native, people often assume that he must have had something, but no, it's actually a German last name that they couldn't pronounce when he came over, so they gave him the meaning of it. And then this is a sequel to it that I know I've read it multiple times, but I don't actually remember it because I read this one more. I used to read these a lot when I was pregnant. I don't know why. I just did. Because reasons. My favorite Jeanette Oak, A Woman Named Damaris. It's about a gal who's named Damaris, and she knows that her name is in the Bible, but she doesn't know anything about it. And then she finds it, and she's very disappointed that it's just, and a woman named Damaris, and then the whole story behind all that. Isabella Alden, Man of the House. This is actually probably closer to middle grade, but it's kind of her version of the Oliver Optic, Horatio Alger's, rags to riches kind of boys' tales. My friend Senna Arnold's Fruit for Tomorrow, The Road Winds On, and Not My Will. My Straight Down a Crooked Lane that I replaced is still not here, so I need to go say, hey, yo, send me my book, because that was like 2 months ago. The Forgiving Hour by Robin Lee Hatcher, one of my all-time favorite books. This book is so hard. It is so hard, and I can't really explain why without giving it away, but The Forgiving Hour is the best title for it that there could be. The Gresham Chronicles. Guys, these books. Someday I've got to talk about these books, just these books. But, gosh, is this a secondary? I don't know. But the first one is The Widow of Larkspur Inn. Her husband was not the man she thought he was. He dies. She discovers they're destitute. And all she has left is this inn, and I don't know if it's even her inn or if it belongs to their old butler. I can't recall, but I know the old butler helps her set up this inn. And the thing that I remember the most about this book is when, at the end of the first day, she's in this gloomy hallway and she's looking out the window and she says, Lord, I am not happy. And then there's something that convicts her or whatever, and she's like, but I will be content. And it was just such an eye-opening, beautiful thing. And then this wonderful cast of characters comes in, and you just fall in love with them. And then in the second one, Courtship of the Vicar's Daughter, there are two big stories going through here. First, the vicar's daughter has a young man that she's engaged to, and her father sees him with a lady of the night. And obviously everything gets cut off, and they, go off to this little village, and they're away from him. When he comes to be the school teacher, and he is determined to show that he has repented. And so there's that whole story going on. Actually, there's three good stories, but two main ones. The second story has to do with this young girl who lives in a home with some awful parents. She's a Methodist. Awful parents. I mean, just a father. She had a wonderful mother, but the mother's dead. But father and her brothers, and they're terrible to her. And all she wants to do is get married and get out. And marriage is pretty much the only way to get out. But there's a young man who comes to town, and she decides he would be a perfect husband for her. And so she's talking to one of the quirky characters in this inn, and she says, what do I do? And the gal's like, I'll take care of it. And so she sets up this elaborate thing, totally mortifies the girl. The guy is like, I am not interested. And then everything ensues from there. But it's like this hilarious thing. She's making him dinner every week, and it's just, they're both just miserable. But the story ensues. And then there's one of the things I learned the most from any Christian fiction, really, just a little practical achievement. One of the biggest ones, it might be the biggest one, is that there's a man in here who was a drunk, and it really affected his family to the point where his children were taken away by the vicar. They took them away from him, and he was gone. And he comes back quite a while later, and he says, I want my children. And the guy's like, how do I know that you're not going to do this? Can you promise me you're never going to drink again? And the guy says, no, I can't. But I can promise you that I won't today. And that's where I can start. We'll worry about tomorrow. And it was just like, it was so freeing for me to really think about that. It's kind of like the beginnings of the AA stuff, right? But it was really freeing for me to think about, I don't have to worry about not ever, yelling at my kids, or spending too much money, or, ignoring the word or whatever. I don't have to worry about making sure that is something that changes for the rest of my life. I just have to make sure I do it today, this hour, maybe just this hour, and so that was huge. I absolutely don't remember anything about this one. Zippo, nothing. I suspect it's because I didn't like it. Then we have Sons of Blackbird Mountain by Joanne Bischoff. One of my, if I had to save any books from this thing, and I could maybe have 10, this would be one of the 10 that I would save. The next one is good in the series. It is really good, really, really good. Loved it. But this one was just achingly beautiful and wonderful. You have a deaf cider maker who is also an alcoholic. You have a young woman who's just over from Ireland, and you have the family that she's coming into. She was married to one of the brothers, and he died. And then just the whole story behind it, how they become who they become. And it was just stunning. Just loved it. And this is the sequel, Daughters of the Northern Shore. Again, wonderful book. This is one of those, it's not a debut book. This was not her debut, but this is one of those debut books that I'm in a series anyway that was so good that following up was going to be really hard. This is another one by her, Lady and the Lionheart. Everybody raves about it, something about a circus, and I have not read it. So The Gold in These Hills, like 2 years ago I think it was. This was like maybe my top book of the year. It was so good. It's a dual timeline. This mining town, and the way that everybody is leaving one after another. Nobody's making any money. They're just barely surviving. And then the modern day equivalent, this guy's wife has left him, and he's fighting to keep his children, and he's fighting for his marriage. And in a time when people don't do that anymore, it's beautiful. Well, not that they don't, but we don't hear about it. And so, and then how those converge and everything. That was so good. It was so good. Yes. And then The Healing of Natalie Curtis by Jane Kirkpatrick. She writes about actual women in history that we don't know a lot about. So she takes everything we do know and then fills in the gaps with fiction. And in this one, this is about Natalie Curtis. She was a concert pianist, and she got attacked by nerves and couldn't play. And so she was recuperating. Her brother had gone to Arizona, obviously, Arizona. And I just am trying to destroy my books. But he had gone to Arizona for his asthma, and he'd done worlds of good. So he tried to convince her to come out there. Well, she did. And when she got out there, she heard this native woman singing and wanted to hear more, and the woman wouldn't. She finally finds out that there's a law. They're not allowed to sing their native songs and speak in the native languages, and they're not allowed to do any of that anymore. There's a law. And she thinks this is horrible. They're going to lose some beautiful culture that is part of what makes America America. And so she went. She knew Teddy Roosevelt. This all happened. She knew Teddy Roosevelt and went to him and said, "We can't do this. You've got to change this." And she managed to get permission to record these people singing and talking, and just to kind of preserve that culture. And so this is that story. This I have with it because this is the story that her brother wrote about, not about anything, but he actually wrote a book, and this is what it was. And when I was talking to Jane Kirkpatrick on the podcast, she told me about this book, so I found it on eBay. It was $10. It's a beautiful book. There, if you really look closely, someone has, I'm going to turn it just a little bit in case it shows it, but someone has set something on it. So there's a ring if you really look closely, but if you don't look closely, you don't see it. It has deckled pages, barely. I think, oh my gravy. Is this epistolary? This could be epistolary. Guys, it's epistolary. Oh, I did not know this. I did not know this. Anywho, so when I read this one, I want to read this one. And I'll put this over here. These are I'm missing one. These are my Rosanna M. White. I'm missing An Hour Unsung. But these are the Shadows Over England series. And or is it a Song Unsung? It's a Song Unsung, not an hour. I don't know what's wrong with me. Song Unsung. It's my favorite. It has Margot in it, who is one of my favorite characters she's ever written. This one was a little sappy for me. This one was pretty cool. Hour Unsung was awesome. And it's about a found family of thieves. And they have these insane challenges. So in this one, it's steal a name. And she has to find a way to steal a name. And in this one, it was, steal time. And so he has to try to steal time. And I loved what she did with that. And a Song Unsung, obviously, Song Unsung. She has to steal a song. But then this series is the Code Breakers or something like that. And this one, Number of Love, is about that Margot in my missing book. And it's... Okay, I want to say I loved this series. I really did. But I didn't love Margot as much in here as I did in here. She in here, in the missing book here, she reminded me of Margaret Dashwood in the 1995 Sense and Sensibility with Emma Thompson. I just dusted that. Whatever. Just whatever. Okay, I hope that I got this in a good place. Next up, I do have a terrible habit of packing them in. Strand of Hope by Amanda Tarot. This was a special edition that I bought because I wanted to support her. And I knew I would probably love the story because it's about the paperback, not the paperback, the backpack or whatever you want to call them, librarians. Oh, all my little goodies that I got with it that I don't think I've ever looked at. Snap and share. Oh, Amanda, I did not, but I will. I'm snapping and sharing. But yeah, so it's one about those, horseback librarians, and I'm eager to read that. This is Barbara Coyle, Ned the Barnado Boy, or Barnardo Boy, whatever, about the orphans in England, and great, wonderful, delightful story. It's actually middle grade historical fiction, but it's wonderful. Halstead House by Christy Martenson. Guys, this book. There's so much to tell about it, but basically she runs a boarding house, and the people that live there, her little girl, and the whole stories around it. It was just a really sweet, wonderful story, and I loved it. It says, a rumbling white house, an unopened letter, a woman in need of a miracle. So, just saying. I have not read this one. The Bridge to Belle Island. I know nothing about it. All right, I'm gonna need glasses now, I think. After a humiliating mistake, lawyer Benjamin Booker resolves to never again trust a woman. And I'm having trouble. The split infinitive there is really bothering me. They don't always, but that one is. And then I only bought this book because I think this is it. No, this isn't it. I don't know why I have this book. This isn't the one I thought it was. I thought it was her book. Maybe I just bought any one without worrying about it. But I thought this was the one about broken arrow or broken knee, wounded knee. That's the word I'm looking for. I thought it was that one. It's not. Oh well. Or maybe it is, and I don't know what I'm talking about. But Whitmire, I think it's Whitmire. I'll be talking to her, and I'll be asking her about it. So we're going to be talking to her soon on the podcast. Things We Didn't Say, Amy Lynn Green. Amazing. If you haven't read it, get the book. Just get the book. It's told in letters, notes, newspaper articles, office memos, court transcripts, the whole 9 yards. And it's amazing. World War II, German POW. She is accused of treason. Yeah. And then Grace Livingston Hill, Not Under the Law. I've never read it, but someone gave it to me, so I decided I will read it, and then I'll decide if it fits with my Hill collection. I have very few Hills. A Rumored Fortune by Joanna Davidson Politano. I didn't think I was going to like this when I first got started with it, and by the end I loved it. It actually there is rumor of missing treasure, and they need it, and that's all I'm telling you, because yeah. Then we have The Love Note by Joanna Davidson Politano. This one, the love note isn't what you would think, and it is beautiful and brilliant, and the romance is light and almost not there, and what is there is, it's not the same old, which I loved. The Lost Melody. You kind of go a little crazy yourself as you watch her be doubting everything she knows about herself as she's locked in an asylum. That's all I'm telling you. Because yeah. And then Freedom's Ring by Heidi Schiavaroli. Freedom's Ring, I have not read it. Boston 2015 and 1770, so this is split time after the Boston Massacre. So there's that. Almost my all-time favorite, not quite, one of my total favorites, Grace Livingston Hill's The Obsession of Victoria Grayson. It makes it look like a romance. It's not a romance. It's about this woman who is actually just investing in young men because she sees potential in them that nobody else sees. Cloudy Jewel, this is the one about these college students that want to have her be their chaperone so they can have a house while they're at college and everything that goes with that. Beautiful story. This is Unto the End by Pansy, a wife's faithfulness in a very hard, ugly marriage. By Way of the Wilderness. I don't remember which one this one is, but isn't it beautiful? It's old. It's very old. I don't remember what year, but it is. Okay, so her latest books at that time were 75 cents, $1.50, and 75 cents. So they were either 75 cents or $1.50. But this one was published in, look at the illustration. I wonder if you can see that. Wayne and Enid, I mean. Well, where's the publication date? Come on. These look like end papers, though. I don't see a publication date on it. 1895. But this is the 1899 publishing, printing. And then I have another different publisher copy of Unto the End. I really probably should pick one and give up one, but I haven't yet. Okay, truth be told, I didn't know I had to. I think I bought one from a gal who didn't like it. From Different Standpoints by Pansy. I don't remember that one. Christie's Christmas. This is more of a, I don't want to say children's story, but kind of. Sydney Martin's Christmas. I probably should have these up with my Christmas books. But yeah, I actually don't remember those. Might not have read them yet. But then Montana, Martha, and John. This one was wonderful. There's so many. I need to reread this. There were so many lines in here that I just really learned from and where it was just totally blessed by. So there's that. The rest on this shelf, I'm just going to move them over here. The rest on this shelf are Elizabeth Googe, The Little White Horse, which was J.K. Rowling's favorite book as a child. Kind of fantasy, definitely for youth. The Middle Window, it's almost a time slip ishness. It's kind of time slip. I mean, true, slipping into another time as opposed to dual timeline. In Scotland, and she sees a painting and falls in love. I have that on a wrap up. If I remember, I will put it in there. The Scent of Water, loved this. Some people don't. I think Mitzi said she didn't like it because of one of the women in here actually falls in love with a married man, and she didn't like that aspect. And it's not that I like that, but what I liked about it was that she does nothing with this. She remains friendly. She keeps her thoughts and emotions in check. And it was kind of like a picture of, okay, these things happen. How do you deal with it? And I thought the author dealt with it really well, showing how this could be a thing, and until you can push that aside, if you ever can, you can at least behave in a correct manner. And so I liked that. Island Magic. Okay, this one was so memorable that I don't remember, and I just read it a few months ago. Oh yeah. This one, I don't think Mitzi would like either. There is a marriage trouble in here that isn't, but is, but isn't. But I loved, there's a lot going on in it, and I loved how it resolved. It wasn't my favorite of her books, but I didn't dislike it. My brain confuses this one with Child from the Sea, so some of the same things get really muddled in my head. The Dean's Watch is one of my all-time favorite. Googe, it might be my favorite. I'm not sure. Although The Little White Horse, I'll say that's my favorite children's because I think it's the only one she did. And then this one might be my favorite of her adult works, unless it's The Rosemary Tree, which I loved. Beautiful story of a woman who's unhappy in her marriage, and a minister who is totally in love with his wife and doesn't know how to make her happy because he can't, and that's the key. But then the other people that come in and out of their lives and all the good stuff. It's beautiful. I even tabbed it some, so, you know, just saying. Alright, so we have The Maid of Ballymacroo by Jennifer Dybel, and that's right, this is about the gal who is kind of like trapped in a house, and she likes to find special things and all about what happens there. My Heart Belongs in the Blue Ridge, Laurel's Dream by Pepper Basham. And I mean, it's Pepper, so yeah. It's Christie vibes. If you liked Christie, there's that one. I have not read this, The Lost Lieutenant by Erica Vitch. I've heard amazing things about it. It's the first in a series. But I did read one of her novellas in a collection, and I didn't love it. And so I'm hoping it's just because it's a novella, and sometimes novellas are kind of like that. These are 3 Amanda Cabot's, Borrowed Flame, Cimarron Creek, whatever, Tender Hope, and A Stolen Heart. I talked with Amanda about these books on my podcast, and so I bought them. I still haven't read them, but I bought them. Rachel Fordham, Yours Truly Thomas. I believe it's somewhat epistolary. Yeah, it's not completely epistolary, but it's definitely got quite a few letters in it, except that it's out of order because also Amanda Cabot, After the Shadows, Sweetwater Crossings. There's this house in Texas that doesn't fit, and the story by how that happened. These 3 by Liz Tolsma. I still haven't read Remember the Lilies. I thought I did, but I didn't. But I have read Daisies Are Forever. I read them out of order. I read this one first. And then Snow on the Tulips. Snow on the Tulips, Holland, the German invasion, and the families and all the things. She's racked with grief already. And the covers, guys. The covers, they're stunning. But I loved this series. Liz tends to be a bit more effusive in her declarations of undying love than I'm comfortable with, but she's a good storyteller, and those I really loved and didn't get too much of that in it. I will say in this one, I think it's this one, yeah, in this one, the villain was kind of weird. It was different, and I want to reread it and see if I get the same vibes. Then The Refrain Within and Melody of the Soul. I think these take place in Hungary and Prague. I thought this one I had them backwards. I thought this one was Prague and that one was Hungary, but it's the other way around. But they're World War II. Liz does a lot of World War II. And then probably her best World War II. What I would tell you, Sephardic Jews in, this is Split Time, Sephardic Jews in Greece. And then what comes, that book, guys, that book pretty much wrecked me. Yeah, great story. Sarah Sund and the Land Beneath Us. I knew nothing about it. I just bought it because Sarah. Codename Edelweiss, one of the most important books I read last year. I think everyone should read this book. I'm seeing reflections of what was happening then. This is the story of the Nazi attempt to infiltrate and kind of take over and push their agenda in America, starting in Hollywood. Great story. This one ends up being a kind of a spy for a guy who's collecting information about it. It was awesome. Tracy Peterson. I just put these on. This was in a book haul. Finding Us. These are the camera girls of the Chicago World's Fair 1909. Remember Me is the first one. This one, it's a picture of a widow holding a baby that sets everything off. Or wait a minute, maybe that's this one. I don't know. I'm getting them backwards. Counterfeit Hope. Now I've read Counterfeit Love by Crystal Cottle, and I really liked it. All the bookmarkness. It's just like stuff's falling out. But it was really good. the romance wasn't, even though it was, which was kind of nice. I don't know what this one's going to do, but I'm hoping I will like it as much. Gilded Age. And then the London Restoration, Rachel McMillan. I think this is post World War II, but I'm not sure. But it looked good. And then Finkbeiner, All Manner of Things, and The Nature of Small Things, Nature of Small Birds. I always say things. I don't know anything about either of those books, and I kind of don't want to because Finkbeiner, she's amazing. I've already shared Laura Heil, the Austens. The ones I didn't share on my Jane Austen book, I talked about this series, about Elizabeth Elliot, and these are my copies. I got them back, so there's those. I don't know why I bought this, but there was a reason. Oh, it had Amanda Dykes. That's why. Joanne Bischoff and Amanda Dykes, Message in the Bottle romance collection. I'm not so sure on romance, but I like both of them, so we're going to try it. I loved Janelle Soselsky's Among the Poppies and Songbird and the Spy. They are especially great Christian fiction. Loved them so much. She has gone to Thomas Nelson and has gone less Christian and mostly clean fiction. And this is an example of it. It was a really good story, so I kept it. But it is kind of sad that we've lost, because she had some really good faith content, and we don't have that anymore. Courting of Moral Little. I'm trying to remember who told me to read that. Maybe Anne Gabhart or Jane Kirkpatrick. One of those. I think it was Anne Gabhart. Or it could have been Peg Thomas. I don't know. It was them. These are I'm missing one. I don't know where it went. I don't know. But these are my Jamie Jewell Wrights. House on Foster Hill. Reckoning of Bosmer Pond. Bosworth Manor. This one has a funny story. The first time I saw it, it looked like a ship's sail. See, it kind of has that, and so that's what I saw. So I read it as The Curse of the Misty Wayfarer, and I thought it was about a ship. So that was kind of funny. Hunting at Bonaventure Circus. Souls of Lost Lake. Premonition at Wither's Farm. Vanishing at Castle Moreau. My Echo of Stones, I don't know where it is. I don't know. And their Barlow is coming out, so I'll be adding that to that collection. The Edge of Belonging by Amanda Cox. She also wrote The Secret of Old Depot, Secret Keepers of Old Depot Grocery, and that was really, really, really good. All right, I want to move this way and bring this down a bit. This is all the biblical fiction I own. There is not much. Not by Sight. Elizabeth Jacobson. I'm trying to remember. This is about Joseph, and the opening thing on the inside flap mentions Potiphar's wife. She's trying to tempt him. So there's that. The Voice in the Within the Flame. Song of Prophets and Kings. And I have an interview with this guy. I will just link the interview because there's a lot to tell about it, but I don't know it. And I have a link to an interview with. I'm missing one. There are 3 of these, I'm pretty sure. And I'm missing one. I don't know where it is. Huh. So, Pillars of Barabbas. I Was Called Barabbas is the first one. This is the second one. And I don't know. I think I have the third, but I don't know where it is. And then My Brother the King. Probably the first biblical fiction I've read in a long time. I really loved it, except for one scene I disagreed with. I don't think it would happen that way. I don't think it could have. I think it goes against culture, but it was so well researched. She got so much so right that I'm not going to argue about it. And then Tosca Lee's Iscariot that Shalice got me. These are Connellan cassettes. Cities of Refuge books. This is the first biblical fiction I read after many years of not reading any, and I loved it. I like how Connellan writes about events and places and people connected with biblical characters, but doesn't do the biblical characters. I am missing a book because I haven't bought it yet. All right, take two. The first one did not show. So these are my Barsetshire Chronicles by Anthony Trollope. My friend Anne has been telling me I need to read them. I have read this one. I didn't realize it was part of a series somehow, and so I decided I wanted to read them all. And then I went looking for a matching set and couldn't find one. But I finally found these. Got all of them for $40 on eBay, which is like a huge blessing. All right, we have The Lamplighter by Miss Cummins, part of the Pansy series. I have not read this. I don't know anything about it. I'm going to do it that way. This is Barberry Bush by Kathleen Norris, who wrote Mother, which is a wonderful book that I don't know where my copy is. The Harvester by Jean Stratton Porter. This is a fun story. I was pregnant once and was looking on our shelves for something to read that I hadn't read and didn't know anything about this. I didn't know where it came from, never heard of it, read it, loved it. Very romantic book, and I still love it, so that's kind of interesting. Jean Stratton Porter, Michael O'Halloran. I haven't read this one, I don't think. Freckles Comes Home, which is it's not written by Jean Stratton Porter, and you can tell I don't like it nearly as much as Freckles. Why do I get a feeling that Mitzi would really love this copy? Great story, love Freckles, and my Keeper of the Bees. All right, put these back. Okay, then we're almost done. And this is Lead in the Mist by Hope Mirrlees. This is one of the first fantasy books ever written. It's a Sweet Sequels. I'd never heard of it. And I started it, and I wasn't really getting into it. It was feeling like it was going to be a lot like Fantasties, however you say it, by George MacDonald, which I didn't like. Girl from the Train. This one's a fun World War II. Fun. Listen to me. It's fun because it was actually originally published in South Africa, and it's about the train to Auschwitz. And yeah, I really want to read that book. I just haven't gotten to it because books. This is the third in a series. I don't know why I still have it. I had the first couple, and my daughter didn't think I'd like them, so I don't know why I still have that. The Wings of Poppy Pendleton by Melanie Dobson. It will be split time because Melanie and I love her Memories of Glass and her Catching the Wind, so I'm sure I'm going to love that. Ladies of the Lake, if you like Prince Edward Island and women's fiction. Yeah, I'm excited about this one. The Girl from the Papers. This one is kind of a Bonnie and Clyde retelling. Not really retelling, but really inspired by it. And then Murmur in the Mud Caves by Kathleen Denley. And I'm really excited to read that one. I've loved that Chaparral Heart series. It's been really great. And that reminds me, I need to grab this book so that I can be reading that while I'm out here. So there we go. And then finally we have just some classics. All the Wild, Treasure Island, Tales from Shakespeare, Charles and Mary Lamb, Homer, Fierce Loves and Faithful Wars, The Outsiders, Lorna Doone. Someone actually asked me why I named my daughter Lorna. I loved that someone asked because not everybody knows about that book, so I thought that was great, and now I can share why. And then my Wordsworth Classics, Austin's. So this was long. So we are not going to even touch any of this yet. And we will talk more. We will talk more. Because books. This has been fun.